Hey, and welcome back to VFX Tutors. So I'm Josh, and in this tutorial we're going to be continuing with our Booble project. I probably should think of a different intro. You're probably tired of me saying the same thing over. But yeah, in our last one we sort of did our hips, and now we're going to start doing our legs. So I hope you guys are enjoying this tutorial series, and yeah, I look forward to seeing what you've created. And yeah, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll stop going on and we'll just get going. Alright, thanks for watching. So we're actually coming quite close to the end of modelling this, because we've actually got quite a few bits that we've already done. So we've got this this leg ball joint and this down, this sort of knee joint, which we're going to reuse this bit and that bit. So I remember actually when I was making this, I was like, oh no, we've made too much, but actually there is something in there that should not be in there. What is that? I think I may have merged. Oh no, I'm selecting two things. So that is currently going through. Okay, because that's got thickness, and we've kind of pushed it, we've offset it, so it's kind of, that's inevitable that was gonna happen, so. B. We probably still actually need to fix that for subdivision. Let's just push this whole thing right in. Cool. Because we're going to reuse this as our leg part. So probably the simplest thing for us to do is just grab all these bits that we want, Control D and Shift P. I'm going to group them all. I'm just going to call this leg. Just going to snap that to the center there. Snap that to the center verse here. So now that should be in the middle. Just going to go to my orthographic front. Obviously this is quite a lot larger, so we can unhide our ref. Unhide our legs. Seem to have lost our... There they are. So it's a little bit different, but let's get this scale size. So we scale everything down. So it's matching that. Also I'm going to remove. So that's rotated like that. Cool, so it's definitely a little bit too big still. So I'm just going to tuck this in. And when you look at it, it's actually facing that way. So I can just do a 90-degree turn on that. So just poking out. Ooh. So I'm just roughly getting it right how I want it. Because the hips, they don't... Imagine these kind of stretch in and stretch out, but they're not out. When we look at it, they're not out that far. They're in quite a bit. And there might be some slight differences. But I think for this case we can reuse it instead of completely remodeling some bits. You could probably slightly change it up, but if I'm honest, I'm not particularly that bothered if it's not. Although we should be matching to the reference. Cool. So if we do that, I imagine that comes out and it's... We sort of got our rough leg joint, so hopefully if we rotate, let's put that on world, just rotate that round 90 degrees. Freeze transforms and rotate that 90 degrees. Why is that not? Anyway, we can figure that out if we go to our front. It's probably because we just had a transform in it or something. We can worry about orientations a bit later. Cool, so the main thing that we see about this is actually our leg is, let's hide that. From our reference, it's actually a little bit higher up. Don't forget this is posed, so don't worry if it's not exact yet. We can fine tune it a little bit later, but what we want to do is try and get this those proportions aren't that far off, but this looks like so that looks straight and this looks like it's bent forward, so it's kind of it can be quite deceiving because we're looking at a sort of tilted hip, but the way we can do this, we should be all right. Cool. So our main difference with our legs is that we don't really have that sort of this bit here. Just kind of goes straight out. It might not even have that bit. Let's pull this down. What we can do, let's just delete those edges. Oh, we've deleted too much. Why isn't control delete deleting vertices? There we are. Cool. I'm going to delete that. I'm just control E that down. And it's hard to really tell what's going on in here. This will only rotate in that axis anyway. It may be able to rotate in its Y rotation, but it won't be able to sort of like rotate left and right. So a lot of we will need a lot of rotation sort of locks as well. So I'm just going to do that to there. And I'm pretty sure that these legs are like hydraulic pistons, so I'm going to treat it that way. I'm just going to go bevel. So it almost looks like Might even be wrong there. It might just be because that's a lot thinner. It kind of feels like this just attaches straight to that. Which would obviously make things easier, and it kind of gives us that roughly decent proportion size. So I'm just going to scale this down. Ooh. So if I group that and just center that, I do think that's a little bit... That's probably about right, actually. So I'm just going to join these two together. So I think because we're not going to do a massively complicated rig. It's going to be a very, very simple rig for what we need. It will just be like effectively an intro to rigging. So, and I hope that I've got the right amount of vertices here. I did not check on that. But generally this is just a ball, so they usually work with the same amount, so yeah, so let's just select these and just mesh these together, combine. I'm just going to use my target weld on my vertices and just target weld these in. I could use the merge vertices, but we've got quite a lot. The distances are, it's going to merge it to the wrong ones basically. So I know it's a bit manual, but it's not so bad. And like I said, I'm just trying to copy this, but you could be making your own robot. It's really good practice to try and duplicate something from reference, because a lot of the time that is what you're going to be doing. Like the reference will be concept work. So I'm just going to bevel this so that's a tight edge. Cool, and it gives us that little bit of thinness there. I feel these are quite long. These are a bit longer. Maybe that's about right. Let's bring it down a touch. So you've got to be careful as we're doing this so we don't break our... We don't want it too wildly off, so we can go to our panels, orthographic and side. We can just double check that we're also bringing this down the correct amount. Cool. So I'm feeling pretty happy with that sort of size. Then it kind of goes down into like another one of these, but much larger. See if we can actually see something here. It looks a little bit different. It looks a bit tapered there, but these bits it looks very round. So it could just be on those ones, but on that one it looks really sharp. And I'm just assuming that these are all done by the same company. It's very unlikely. Sometimes they might have multiple companies doing different ones, so they're probably the same, because they just don't look like, in some places they don't kind of match, and that might just be my reference, or the different parts in it might be intentional, so I couldn't say for sure. Cool, so Obviously this bit is probably not needed, because that's probably just another duplicate of that. Let's actually scale this down as well. Not even sure if that's really in there as well, but we'll leave it there just because we may as well. We don't really see this bit because that goes right down to the foot. So if we bring back our reference, ooh. So definitely got some sort of difference in scale. But what we do is we use this to sort of, ooh. Why can't I select one? Just going to snap that to there because I know that's where that is. And obviously these knee ones are a bit smaller than our elbows by the looks of it. Not a huge amount, but it's quite difficult to tell sometimes. But if we just go back to our X-ray. So now we've kind of got our knee and our leg. So I actually do want to Control D and Shift P that. So now I've got two of these. And I now need to so first of all I will delete all of that. And I imagine we can have some stretch in here. We can make that a piston because we're not really seeing it. So where is that? Let me go back to our wireframe or shaded X-ray. Just go to front. I'm just going to use this as a reference to where the center is, and we're not that far off. It's about there. Cool. I'm just reusing bits, and obviously these bottom ones are much bigger. What is that in there? Oh, that's the leg. So I'm just going to pull this up, get that out of the way, because it's probably something around there. Doesn't matter. We won't be rigging it, so it's kind of like. So our ankles are quite a lot bigger. So let's just select this, let's group that and center it. Just gonna scale it from the middle. And then I'm just going to scale this up. There's definitely something like that, but I feel that these are... Got to be careful with that, because now we're obviously changing the scale on the actual tubing. So not actually going to do that. I'm going to make sure that I select these edges. Sorry, select these vertices. I wouldn't usually do this with scaling because this will affect the bevels, but I should do the same on this. Why is that kind of funny? There we go. So we've now got that sort of ankle joint. What's happened here? Oh yes, we scaled it, didn't we? It's quite a lot larger, but it should be fine. We can sort of make this a bit custom. And this, we probably just want to, just for sanity's sake, change it to 90 degrees, and that's obviously where our foot's going to be. So we're on 20 minutes. Oh, that's not actually rotating in the middle. Why is that? See, that's a very odd transform on there. What does this do? I could put it back all to 0. Well, we've got we'll have to take a proper look at that. Let's change that to object. We seem to have broken our manipulator on that, but let's not worry too much. We can fix that quite easily. Cool. Let's change that to, that's bogey minus 90 now. Cool. So there's some slight twisting going on here. I'm not sure what's going on there. Something to keep an eye on. It does happen, so don't worry. It's just understanding how you can fix it. And we've definitely got something funky going on here. Ooh. Doesn't feel like that's in the center. There we go. I think we've just got a slight funny rotation on that. So you can, what I tend to do is just make another cylinder and we can use this as a reference. So I know we're still working in a to the scene size. So we've got some sort of twist going on here. Just gonna, you can see how on the geo it's showing a little bit more than we want. Cool, that looks fairly uniform, so I'll just, cool. So that's now got rid of that little kink. Cool. So let's. So it's always good to keep an eye on how you change your transforms. You can break things quite easily, but it's not a huge deal because I don't think we ever see what's behind here on his legs. So I think we do have the luxury of. Yeah, it's completely sealed, so there could be anything in there. So what we'll do, obviously, this is a massively large change in pipe size. And it might be that, I don't know. But you don't really see it, so it's fine. I'm just going to make it a little bit logical. So now we've got our foot. Oh well, let's see if we can get through the entire foot. I don't want to... We might even be able to get through. So it really does look like it's sort of rounded there. It's hard to tell because in some places it looks quite sharp. Like here, you can see it's quite sharp and it protrudes out quite a bit. So let's try and make this sort of shin part. Let's get our best bit of reference, which is probably here. And I think at our... see, it looks tucked in there. Yeah. I think we're just going to go with that. It looks kind of uniform there, so we just... Let's work on... So I'm just going to Control D. I'm actually going to reuse these bits. Shift P that out. Cool. We've already got our very basic shape for our leg, just from our blocking. So it will need slight adjusting from our actual model because our blocking was still very rough. So we don't want to. We want to always use it as a guide, but I mean if it's the ankle goes further down. Just kind of it rotates around here. Might even be a bit short as well. So anyway, let's see what happens if we just put a mesh smooth on this and see what shape we get. Pretty round. It's not square, so it's only really tight at the top. So let's just bevel this slightly. So that's smooth. So we've got something not quite right. I feel like this should actually be... I feel that's actually a little bit too close. So let's just see, for instance, I can delete that. And if you're using mirror mode, you can use mirror mode, basically. So I'm just going to delete all these bits that I don't want. And I'm still going to use this as a sort of template, dependent how far this goes. I'm planning this to be a template, but I'll always try and keep it as a sort of model as well that I want to keep, but it doesn't always work out. So I'm just going to use my soft selection to pull this out a bit. And you can use sculpting, but I find it get a little bit better control with soft selection. So I want that to go up to there, but I don't actually want it. It doesn't overlap. It just kind of comes up and goes around like that. Which is our front. Sort of comes up like that, and it will follow up. It's kind of a bit close to our knees. You can it's hard to tell, but it only it doesn't come all the way in. It's sort of very slightly does. Now at the front, it probably meets up. It does meet nicely. It sort of overlaps here. It's not a this curve here and this curve here doesn't align perfectly with that, but that's not a problem. And they do sort of puff out a bit on the sides, so I feel it's something that's fairly close to that. I'm going to turn my soft selection off and just sort of try and fix some of these funny bits. And it's not actually looking too bad as it is already. I feel that this definitely needs to come out of the front. That probably needs to go in a tiny bit, just so it's a nicer curved shape. These definitely come down into... This probably needs to come down a bit more. Probably rotate that so it matches the bevel, the turn in the bevel, and we'll do the same for the back. Ooh. Well, I'm actually I don't mind that, to be honest. It's I'd say that's pretty much. See how much it covers of. So that bit needs to go down. So it does actually need to go. I'm just getting a bit confused with actually. So on this outside here, it stays completely out. It sort of actually goes in here as well. So I'm not sure if that actually has the ability to go in and out. Which would mean that does have to come out probably a considerable bit so it doesn't get caught on that. That definitely comes down to about halfway, so let's make sure we're not stretching any of these bevels out either by accident. So we want to bring this a bit further down. We'll have to curve it. And this will have to come out a bit more. What's going on at the back? There's a funny little kink here. So let's duplicate this and see what it looks like when it's joined together. Just going to minus it in the X. Just merge these together. Mesh combine. So you've got to be careful if you're not meshing things together by accident. So just going to merge the center on these bits. missed one here. We missed that one. I thought we got all these. But definitely cool. So now we've got our, oh, we haven't done the back. Just make sure we're definitely not selecting anything in the back. Press Q to turn the manipulator off as well. That's what we're on 36 minutes. I think we can do this and finish off on the foot on the last one. Apparently, my merge it's not working very well. Cool. So now we've created that sort of shin piece, and we've done quite a bit. We've reused a lot of our geometry. So the next thing would just be to, I'm actually quite happy with keeping this as it is. So the next thing would be to just probably work on how this actually works. It does come up to like a little point, so I'm just playing with this bevel, rotating it around to sort of get this desired shape. It probably does come into a little bit more of a point as well. So I'm just going to select the same vertices on both sides. Group. Ooh. Just going to scale them slightly. Just want to make sure this isn't colliding. And I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. I know it's not... We probably still will need to adjust it with the foot, so it's not completely done yet. So we need to make sure that it works with the foot. Cool. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, and we can subdivide that afterwards. It's confusing because that should be that way. Yeah, once we've done the foot, we'll probably adjust this sort of tip bit here. So, but yeah, we're almost done. We've just got the foot to do. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, which might be the last modelling one if it doesn't take ages. So thanks for watching.